Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Off-Farm Income Podcast. Thank you very much for joining us here on our YouTube channel for episode number 917. Well, very interesting interview today. Another American Star Finalist. Now, the convention is over, and our guest today did not come out with that American Star Award, but I'll tell you what I told him, and that is that once you get to this level, the differences between the four finalists are minuscule. I mean, they are 1/1,000,000th of a percent different, and it's got to be an unbelievably difficult decision for these judges. So in episode number 917 today, we're going to be speaking with Jake Bagby. Now, Jake comes out of Stephenville, Texas, which I absolutely love, and he was an American Star finalist in agriscience testing rumen fluid. It's really, really fascinating, and we're going to get that started for you right now. Jake, welcome to the show. Thank you for coming on today.
Thank you very much for having me.
You bet. I am happy to speak with you and want to say congratulations on being a National Star Finalist. That is an unbelievable accomplishment.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I'm very excited to be in this spot.
Well, I'm happy for you. I am happy for you. And for those folks who are just listening, they're not watching on YouTube, I'm looking at a pretty decent 8-point whitetail buck behind you there, aren't I?
You are. It's not my own, but it is in my apartment, killed by my roommate.
Oh, okay.
I wish I could take ownership for it.
Okay, so your roommate is the one
yes,
who got
sir.
that. Okay, all right, very good. Okay, well, so your apartment, you're going to Texas Tech, right?
Yes, sir, I am.
So I'm talking to you from Lubbock, Texas right now, is that right?
I am in Lubbock, Texas right now.
Okay.
Just a few minutes away from campus.
Okay. And are you able to actually go to class these days, or do you have to do everything online?
So I actually have only 2 classes that are face-to-face right now. I have one that is my class that I'm in. That'll allow me to actually meets judge here on the Texas Tech meets judging team.
Okay.
And then my other one is a chemistry lab I have, but the rest of them are actually online. So a lot of online classes going on here at Texas Tech right now.
Okay. All right. Very good. Now, I was reading on your bio, so you went to Stephenville High School and you were part of that FFA chapter there?
Yes, sir.
Okay. What if I were to tell you that I love going and eating at the Hard 8?
Well, I would not be surprised because that is a great place to live. I actually only live about a mile away from Hard 8, so got a lot of experience eating at Hard 8.
Living a mile from the Hard 8 is the type of thing that dreams are made of, because you could literally walk to the restaurant and get hungry, then you could eat all the great barbecue, and you could walk home and kind of digest and walk a little bit of that off. That's about perfect.
Exactly.
That's the perfect distance. I unfortunately live about 900 miles from the Hard 8, so I rarely get to go there. But and I think the one in Stephenville, isn't that the original?
It is.
Yeah. That's the first one I ever went to. And yeah, this is turning into an unofficial endorsement for the Hard 8, but their barbecue, that place is awesome. I love that place.
Oh, it's amazing.
Yeah, anytime I'm there, and I love Stephenville, by the way. That is always on my list. If I could ever talk my wife into saying, let's move from Idaho to Texas, top of my list is Stephenville. Love it there. So, Jake, did you grow up on a farm or something different?
So I actually grew up a little bit outside of Stephenville, and I only grew up on about 5 or 6 acres, but on those 5 and 6 acres, my family actually raises show goats, and we've kind of continually gotten bigger with that and are hoping to get bigger on throughout the years. So
okay.
Not technically a farm, but still kind of a farm. But
sure. Well, raising livestock, it doesn't take more than one goat to frustrate you. So
that's right.
That's
exactly
legit.
Right.
That's always interesting to me. I spent a lot of time in Texas, and I found out that Texas is the number 1 sheep producing, number 1 goat producing state. It's just never something I ever thought of. You think cattle, but I never thought of that. So yeah, interesting what goes on down there. Okay, so what are you studying? What are you going to? Or let me ask you this: what year of college are you in at Texas Tech right now?
I am in my second year of college, but I'm actually a junior through classification because of my credit hours.
Okay, yeah, that is a common theme with FFA students, as they bring a lot of credits into college.
Yes,
it saves you money, right? Saves you money on tuition, books.
That's right.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great way to do it. What are you majoring in? What are you studying?
I'm studying animal science, and then I have a concentration in meat science business.
Okay.
So general animal science, but just kind of focusing on meat science as a part of that.
Okay, meat science, and so that's kind of why you were talking about the meat judging and things like that earlier. That's been a passion of yours. Okay, that's interesting. So how did you choose that, and what do you want to do with it?
So I said I've been doing meat judging this year at Texas Tech, but I've actually been doing meat judging ever since my seventh grade year through FFA and through high school and stuff. And by doing that and starting that, that's actually what prompted me to try and get a career in the meat science industry. Because back in seventh grade, if you would have told me I would be wanting a job to work with meat, I'd have been like, "You're crazy." But now that's all I want to do. And hopefully later on, after I graduate and stuff, I'll be able to further do research and be able to possibly own my own business or something like that one day, like a processing plant or a little meat locker somewhere. But I'll have to definitely work up to that at some point. So hopefully I'll start off with working somewhere or doing my own research or something like that. But no matter what it is, hopefully it's in the meat science industry.
Wow, interesting. So have you identified a particular job or a particular goal in the meat industry that kind of draws you in?
Not exactly. There's so many different things that you can do in the meat/food science industry. I mean, it can take you a lot of different places. But definitely I'm looking for, when I get out of college, I'm planning on getting my master's degree. And whenever I'm done with that and doing some research and stuff like that here at Tech, I plan on hopefully working for a company like Cargill or a plant, a known plant like Tyson or something like that. And by working for a plant like that and hopefully working my way up to maybe be like a plant supervisor one day,
Oh, wow.
I can take those funds that I've earned by being a part of that career and then put that into my own business one day, whether it's small or maybe big, just depending on how well I can do. I really have always had an aspiration and a dream of owning my own business and doing some things on my own. So we'll see where that takes me.
That is interesting. So you've got an entrepreneurial aspiration as well.
I do. I got a big research side of me, but I also have an entrepreneur side of me as well.
That's very interesting. I talk about entrepreneurship primarily on this show, and it's interesting. When I went out on my own and started my first business, the thought was, man, I don't know if I can succeed at this because I'm not a natural-born entrepreneur. Otherwise, I would have been one my whole life, but I had a job in industry for 15 years working for an employer, and then finally broke away and started my own business, did it really slowly, carefully, and then broke away. And I always thought, well, I'm not a natural-born entrepreneur, so there's a ceiling on what I can achieve. But what it turns out is when somebody like me or somebody like you who's articulate and researches and takes the time and doesn't just kind of do the ready, shoot, aim method. We do the ready, aim, shoot method. We do it kind of the other way. We're not that natural-born entrepreneur. Once we overcome that fear and that hesitation of going out on our own, our group of entrepreneurs tends to succeed at a much higher percentage because we're careful with our money, we plan. We don't just go in gangbusters thinking everything's going to work out, and if it doesn't, we'll start again. And so it is interesting when our group goes in.
Yes, sir.
And so that's great. Good for you. Okay.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. So now, have you already chosen what you're going to get a master's degree in?
I haven't. I've thought about it, but I'm sure I'm going to be sticking with the Master's of Sciences. But also, there's a new program here at Texas Tech. And like I stated earlier, I'm kind of ahead on my credit hours. And this program would actually allow me to finish my bachelor's degree in 3 years. So next year I'd be done. However, I wouldn't graduate with my undergrad until 4 years because in that year in between, I would actually be getting my master's of business or my MBA.
Okay.
And so by the time I'm done with everything in college, I'll have gotten my undergrad in animal science, my master's of business, as well as my master's of sciences.
Okay, interesting. Now, have you ever owned your own business before?
I have in ways, but definitely not a large business, but kind of done some little things here and there. But I've hoped to do something here at Tech that I can hopefully make some money on and kind of develop it into a business.
Okay.
But back home in Stephenville, some friends of mine, and I did some mowing and stuff like that of our own little kind of business. And but other than that, I hopefully I can do something soon.
Well, I never did until I was 39 years old. So you've got plenty of time. Plenty of time.
Well, yeah. that makes me feel better.
Yeah, enjoy your 20s. Go out, do the things that interest you, get that experience, and you've got tons of time. So don't even sweat that. Do not sweat that at all. Well, that is great. That is very exciting, Jake. So, I think you stated that you have been doing meats judging since 7th and 8th grade. Does that mean you were able to start the FFA then, or was that through 4-H?
That was through the junior FFA program, and but I still was able to judge with everyone that was in high school and stuff like that.
Okay, that's great. Wow. And so how many total years do you have into the FFA now then?
So I guess now technically I started my 7th grade year and did showing of goats and lambs as well as meats judging. And now I'm technically still an FFA member. So I guess that would put me at 8 years now in the FFA. So quite a long time.
That's interesting. I've just got a side question for you. As you're going through college courses and you're studying animal science, you've got this emphasis on meat and the meat industry. How is this like the Impossible meat and stuff like that factoring in with what's going on with plant-based protein and the way that this is emerging, and there's more and more people that are wanting to consume like a meat substitute from plant-based protein?
Yeah, so I mean, definitely that is a large part in our world right now with all these new restaurants, food chains, and companies taking on different pathways of using these plant-based meat products and stuff like that. And I just so happen I'm taking a speech class right now at Tech, and our next speech is actually is a persuasive policy speech. And I was planning on doing my speech over using regular based meat products over plant-based meat products. And there's a lot of people that have questions about that and will argue and stuff. And I'm not ever one to tell someone they're wrong or anything like that. But I definitely know that I'm strong-willed when it comes to thinking about our farmers and ranchers and the agriculture community that are producing this meat for consumption and how much work goes into it. And then you think about how we are now changing this totally, and we're basically creating a product that is coming out of a lab and not being naturally made. And so I just think that's hurting our world more than it is helping. But it's definitely having a huge effect on our world right now. And by doing research, hopefully I can do some research over that. And I can be able to find out my own results of what the differences really are between these, and we'll see what changes go on in our world after that and in our future. So,
yeah, I mean, there's a lot of demand for the plant-based protein and the meat substitutes, and obviously, I mean, you want to be in business, you understand that demand is going to drive where it goes, and innovation and product development and things like that. And it's an interesting time. It's hard to imagine a transition to where plant-based protein replaced, animal-based protein. But I don't know. We'll see what the consumers demand. But I'm like you. I'm a traditionalist. I like raising livestock, and I like being able to do that as a business, and I like that part of it. But yeah, it's an interesting discussion, and certainly, me, nobody else knows exactly where it's going at this point, but there's definitely something there. So we'll see where that heads. Okay.
Yes, sir.
So I imagine, how many FFA advisors did you have there at Stephenville?
So when I started high school or going in junior high, in the high school, I had 3 ag teachers, and then we actually changed, and throughout my entire time in high school, we were a 4 ag teacher program.
Okay.
But with the switching and stuff of different ag teachers, I had about 8 or 9 ag teachers total that actually taught me or were around me through our program.
Okay. Well, I would love to acknowledge those folks that have helped you along the way. Could you just let us know who your ag teachers were?
Yeah. So Mr. Ryan Best, Miss Savannah Bowers, Mr. Michael Rainey, Miss Laura Williams, and Mr. Ryan Clark. were all ag teachers that played such a big role into my time in the FFA, and that were able to help me and influence me and all different things. They all had a different aspect in my time in the FFA, but Mr. Jordan Smith and Mr. Brock Birch were also my ag teachers. They came in late into my high school career, so I didn't get to spend as much time with them, but they definitely have had influence me on as well. And I wouldn't be the person I am today without all the help of my ag teachers.
All right. Well, thank you so much for acknowledging them. And man, you had a team. You had a team of people there to support you. That's great. That's great. Well, I'm going to take a second, Jake, and acknowledge our sponsors, everybody. Of course, I want to mention Lacrosse Footwear. You can find them over at lacrossefootwear.com. And man, done right since 1897. What a historic company. So proud to have them as a sponsor. So proud to wear their Alpha Range boots every single day of the year here on my farm when I'm out doing chores here in Idaho. And love talking about them when we do our FFA episodes, just because they're so proud to support the FFA by annually contributing $25,000 in both scholarships and jackets through the Give the Gift of Blue program. So please check out everything they've got to offer you over at lacrossefootwear.com. And then, of course, Powder River livestock handling equipment, just the finest in large livestock handling equipment you're going to find, developed out here in the West with some of the craziest cattle that we have coming in off of rangelands. I know people in Texas would argue with me about that, but we've got some wild cattle that spend all their whole lives almost out on the range until they got to come in and get handled by a human. They don't like that, and that's exactly the cattle that Powder River has been developing equipment for over 80 years. I've got a Powder River squeeze chute, Powder River livestock panels here on my farm in Idaho. Had those well before they were ever a sponsor, and we want you to do the same. Check out their entire line of products at powderriver.com and let your local farm and ranch retailer know you want to see that Powder River green out in their sales yard so you can also have the finest in livestock handling equipment. Okay, well, Jake, back to you. Let's talk about your supervised agricultural experience. So I know you're showing and raising goats, but you're doing research, and here you are, you're a finalist in agriscience research. So tell us what that's been.
Yeah, so I did start out my FFA career showing, and I ended it showing as well. But whenever I went into my freshman year, that and meat judging was the main aspects of my FFA career. And I knew that I wanted to do something different. And I mentioned earlier, Mr. Michael Rainey, one of my ag teachers, he actually influenced me to do an agriscience fair research project. And I was like, I don't know, but I'll give it a try. It sounds pretty cool. And I know that our school in Stephenville had some good accomplishments with the agriscience fair. So I was going to give it a shot. And of course, in the agriscience fair, they have 6 different categories. But one of those is animal systems or animal science. Mm-hmm. And of course, that's the one that stuck out to me the most, as my whole agriculture background and FFA background revolved around animal science. And so I was like, well, why wouldn't I do that? So I got started with my agriscience fair project my first year, and I did it over sheep. And I tested different feed diets and how they affected weight gain and pH levels on the rumen fluid of sheep. And so each week I'd go out and pull rumen fluid out of sheep, and I would test it. And then eventually, by gathering up on my data and doing my books and stuff, I competed at the state level in the first year with my partner. We actually won state with our agriscience fair project and advanced the national competition, and we're 4th. And so that was a great experience, and I was only a freshman, so I wanted to do it again. So I did 2 more research projects in my time in high school, expanding on that first one, and then switched it up a little bit my last project, and did a social systems project, and was actually national champion that year.
Wow.
So I just that's kind of what made my research SAE come to what it was. And that's what it really entailed, was those agriscience fair research projects, as well as the research I've done outside of those as well.
Wow. So you won a national proficiency already.
So yeah, I won the national agriscience fair.
Okay.
And then, but I also was a national finalist last year and animal systems proficiency.
Oh, okay. Got it. Got it. So the national win was the agriscience fair.
Yes, sir.
That is great. What year was that?
That would have been in 2018.
That's fantastic. Congratulations
Yeah.
on that, man.
Thank you very much.
You bet. Okay, so that was 2018. Now I got to ask you about rumen fluid. How are you getting the rumen fluid from the sheep?
So there's a lot of different methods that you can collect rumen fluid, and some of them don't require hardly any cost, and some of them take a lot of cost by doing it like surgically and stuff. So of course, this was an agri-science fair project in high school. We wanted to try to do this as cheap as we possibly could, but as efficient as we possibly could.
Mm-hmm.
So we had a veterinarian in Stephenville, Dr. Jeff Geyser. He came out and he assisted us on how we could do orogastric tubing. And what this entails is taking about a 7-foot long tube that's just not very wide. And basically, you're holding the sheep in place. And we use like a sheep stand that you would use in like showing like a blocking stand.
Mm-hmm.
And we would take a spectrum or a speculum in the mouth, and basically would have to slide the tube all the way down the mouth and esophagus, where it eventually lead into the rumen. And then basically pinch it off and pull it out, and you've got your rumen fluid collected inside the tube. And then we would put it inside of a bag, and that's when we would test it for pH levels and nitrate levels and stuff like that. So
okay.
Very, very difficult at the beginning. But by the time I got through 2 years of doing this, I felt like I was a master at it. And I was actually able to, this is the method that you use to like help sheep from choking and stuff like that. And so I was actually able to help some people at different shows and stuff like that as well, since I knew how to do that instead of having to call a veterinarian or anything. So that was a pretty cool aspect of it also.
Wow, that's great. Good for you. Now, so this sounds very similar to when we have to tube a calf or tube a goat or something like that. I don't have sheep on my place, but I have goats and cattle. When we have to give them colostrum or something like that, it's just in the reverse, where you're taking stuff out instead of putting stuff in. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. That's exactly correct. I couldn't explain it any better myself.
Okay. Interesting. Okay, so what were your findings? What did you ultimately end up determining through your research?
So throughout my 2 research projects that had to do with sheep and the different feed diets and collecting rumen fluid. So actually in the first project, I tested different feed diets, which it was just alfalfa hay diet, a textured feed diet, and then an extruded feed diet, and found that definitely the textured feed, which was definitely more acidic than any other feed diet, was yielding lower pH levels, but it also was providing the most amount of weight gain for the sheep that we had on feed on these feed diets. And this affects the health and stuff of these animals, and that's why we were testing this. And then our next project, it was basically very similar, except instead of using different feed diets, we used different protein feed diets. So I had hay, a 15% textured feed diet, or 15% protein, and then an 18% protein textured feed diet. And the 15% protein diet was yielding lower pH levels, and then the 18% feed diet was yielding once again higher weight gain, and then also had higher nitrate levels. And so lots of cool findings that came out of this. I mean, I could definitely talk on and on about that. And then I had a third project that was about sheep breeders' opinions on different reproduction methods, and I set out surveys, and sheep breeders all across the nation, almost 500, answered surveys regarding their demographics, as well as their opinions on reproduction methods. And I didn't find a whole lot of statistical significance between different opinions and demographics. But one cool thing I did find is that the older generation of breeders and producers actually prefer advanced technological reproduction methods over natural breeding, while the younger generation utilizes natural breeding over technological ones. I thought that was kind of interesting. It's a cool tidbit that that I found. But yeah, that's kind of what each of those, and just a short, brief outline what they each entailed. So,
very interesting stuff. Now, how will this, I don't know, this passion or this aptitude that you have for research, how will this help you in the future when you're an entrepreneur? How do you see, utilizing this strength to succeed when you start your own business?
Yeah, so I definitely think that, like I said earlier, I'll be doing my Master's of Sciences. I graduate here at Texas Tech, probably, maybe not, but when I do that, I will. I plan on doing research and trying to do it here in the meat lab, and doing it on different meat products and stuff like that. And so, even though my plans right now for my career are to become an entrepreneur, I still plan on actually doing research as much as I can on different products and different methods and food safety and all of that. If that's what, and who knows, my career even may turn out to be that. We'll see where it goes. But also, whenever you're creating your own business, and you create your own business, so you would know just this, but there's a lot of research that has to go into being able to create your business, and maybe not as specific as you would do for like an agriscience fair project, where you've got numbers and you're writing a 20-page report. But you're still having to use like the empirical method, even though you may not think you are, and trying to get the findings for what you want your business to look like in terms of profit and stuff like that. So definitely different ways that this can be implemented into my future and in my career.
That's great. Okay. Well, has there been another National Star Finalist from Stephenville High School before?
So my ACT teacher called me and told me that I was going to be a finalist for the American Star. Stephenville is a very, very prestigious program. I'll sit here and brag on them for a minute and everything that they do. But I was shocked to find out I am the first finalist ever from Stephenville for any star award, not just agriscience.
Wow. Well, good for you. Congratulations. What's it? You bet. What's it going to mean to you and your family and your FFA chapter and that whole community if you come home with the award?
Well, I can already say that just being named a finalist, I've had so much support and excitement filled around me from my family, my ACT teachers, and my chapter, and even my community. My community is very much it's a very much agriculture-based community, but when it comes to our high school, we're very athletic-based, and we have a very prestigious football program in Stephenville. But one thing that I've seen that's cool is that whenever I was named a finalist for the Star American in agriscience, the news was posting about that, and a lot of comments from people on social media and stuff like that, and I have had a lot of support and stuff and excitement, and that's made me extremely happy. And since it's just like that for being a finalist, I'm sure it would be the exact same and more if I came home as a national champion.
Well, that is great. That's wonderful to hear, Jake. Well, I want to ask your advice before we wrap this up. I want to ask your advice for other students out there when it comes to choices in a supervised agricultural experience. I think a lot of students I would say more than most would probably tend to shy away from research as their SAE choice, just because it sounds like a lot of work, it sounds difficult, it sounds very intellectual. What would you say to students who have an interest in research, but they're kind of going, but I don't know if I want to put that much work in? What would you tell them?
I'd tell them to go for it. I would definitely say this is something that I've said for many things, but when it comes to an SAE, I've said this a lot. Step outside your comfort zone. Research is not something that I intended on doing in high school and being a part of the agriscience fair or anything like that, but I did. And I enjoyed it so much. And it was one of my favorite experiences growing up, was doing the agriscience fair project and doing research. And man, it took a lot of time and effort and took a lot of work, but it was all worth it in the end. And even if I wouldn't have had the results that I did, and I was lucky enough to make it to nationals all 3 years I did an agriscience fair project. But even if I wouldn't have those results, I still would have been satisfied because of the experiences that I gained, the memories that I gained. And now it had an influence on my career. So I would definitely tell any student that is thinking or not even thinking about doing an agriscience fair or a research-based SAE to go for it, because it'll definitely be worth it and you'll enjoy every single moment of it.
That is a great piece of advice. Thank you for that. Well, so what's interesting about your episode is it's coming out the Monday after convention. So,
oh, really?
So you'll be the first Star Finalist, National Star Finalist that I've interviewed who, when I do the introduction, I will know the results. So
cool.
It'll be interesting to see what happens. Well, man, I am very proud of you.
Thank you.
Over 700,000 students in the FFA, 4 categories for the Star Award, 4 finalists in each category, and you're one of them. I don't know if you've done the math on that, but that's pretty incredible.
I've thought about it a couple times, and it kind of gives me the chills just thinking about it.
That is great. Well, hey, best of luck to you. Got my fingers crossed for you, and thank you so much for coming on today.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate you letting me be here.
Well, thank you for being here, everybody, and thank you to Jake Bagby for coming on the Off-Farm Income Podcast today. And hey, as always, enjoy your journey to the ultimate lifestyle business, agriculture.